Hello, hello! I am Ben Pick, and thank you for joining me in Running to Write, where I give questionable writing advice through running metaphors. After last week's break from a writing focus to rant about television shows, today is, ironically enough, about discipline. From balancing a training schedule to maintaining a sustainable race pace, discipline allows you to put your next step in front of you, bringing you that much closer to the finish line. Starting a race or a training plan is easy. Waking up before the sun to go for a 2-hour run is manageable. Doing it multiple times a week for 6 months requires commitment and mental strength. In the same way, anyone can start writing a novel. Finishing it, editing it, and publishing it, that takes discipline. It's time to look inward with my 5 writing rules to finishing those manuscripts. My most fundamental rule is to follow the 3 R's. Run, read, and write. Yeah, obviously I know that write starts with a W, but it has that R sound at the start, and I like thinking about this as the 3 R's, as opposed to W. I start each morning by either running or walking my dog. This resets my mind by doing something I thoroughly enjoy. Both those physical activities clear my thoughts, so that I can play around with my characters and plots while there isn't much else for me to think about for an hour or two. A lot of my friends hate running and think of it as a labor that gets done. For them, this activity would not be ideal for brainstorming. Instead, you could play the guitar or visit a tourist trap to see what all the hype is about. You're aiming to find something that makes you happy while not being overly burdensome. You could also play your favorite video game, assuming you don't get lost for hours in a long Age of Empires match. I recommend against using television, as I find it to be a little bit too mindless or passive of an activity for brainstorming. The next R, reading, gives me inspiration, whether I am counting how many grammatical mistakes I can fit into one of my own sentences, or analyzing how legitimate authors bring their fantastic imaginations to life. The final step, writing, goes without saying. My thoughts are clear from the run, and I have my inspiration after reading. All that's left is to transpose my thoughts onto paper. Writing is also important to associate with the 3 R's for me because it taught me that no rule is absolute. When I was honing my process, the 3rd R stood for relax, which I used to mentally prepare myself to write. Over time, changing my mentality by replacing relax with write itself improved my consistency and word count. Every day in which I had great writing sessions had one thing in common, in that I followed the 3 R's. Even on rough writing days, I was still able to follow those 3 steps and salvage my time to fight writer's block. Number 2, keep everything. Write every idea down, no matter how unfinished the idea seems. Words can always be changed later, but once forgotten, they are difficult or impossible to recapture. I keep note cards by my bedside for when I wake up after having a particularly odd dream, which I've used to write short stories or flush out certain plot and characters. Continually categorize and reorganize these ideas. I frequently pull from them as needed when I'm struggling with what to write next, kind of like my personal writing prompts. On that note, if you like the rigid creativity of writing prompts, go ahead and find a daily or weekly one for practice. By keeping everything, at each major juncture within the story, I have 2 or 3 jotted notes for how to handle these troublesome sections. I can then pick and choose how to proceed until I get a semi-polished first draft done. That allows me to rip it all apart in the next draft, where I can then make it interesting. That leads right into number 3, write freely. Ignore your fears and doubts. The first draft will be terrible. Write without inhibitions to get everything down first. Then go back and refine it in a later draft. Number 4, shout from the mountain! Publicly exclaiming your goals makes you more likely to achieve them. So go ahead and tweet your next month's writing goals to Running to Write. Having that public declaration might nudge your brain to push and write another page, instead of procrastinating by marathoning a show. These tweets also give the added bonus of marking each progressive achievement along the way for an added pat on the back. And lastly, number 5, make a plan. Break up the distant finish line with hundreds of bite-sized mini goals. One bite-sized goal can be to write 500 words in a day, with the larger goal of writing 500 words a day for 7 days in a row. Or you can have the bite-sized goal of writing for 20 minutes 5 days a week, with the larger goal of finishing 8 chapters per month. Fit these goals to match with your lifestyle and the amount of time you're able to devote to writing, and be sure to include some stretch goals. If you surpass that monthly goal and write 10 chapters, find some way to celebrate. Treat yourself for pushing to achieve a little more. Though when you do miss goals, be sure not to punish yourself, as that will hinder future progress. Don't feel discouraged if your goal was to write 500 words and you're staring at a big ol' 0. Any plan needs to be adaptable as life throws unexpected roadblocks in the way. Adjust the plan and goals accordingly, taking into account a busy lifestyle or a particularly stressful work week. Those are my 5 rules I've used to finish and revise a manuscript. Other rules, like write every day, are important and a good goal to aim for, though the write every day motto and mindset may require more flexibility depending on the author's style. My big takeaway for today is that if you make writing a priority in your life, you'll find the time to write, even a little bit, during a busy week. So let me know in the comments what self-imposed rules you use to write. Are there any parents out there? Please share your wisdom for budgeting time. I do not share the same responsibilities as parents with young kids, so I don't have good advice for how best to carve out time to write. So parents, please share your successes or struggles in the comments section. You have my utmost respect. I am Ben Pick, and thank you for joining me in another episode of Writing to Write. If you enjoyed this episode, then please give it a like and subscribe to the channel. Join the Writing to Write community on Facebook, Twitter, and all social media to share your thoughts. See you next time. Until then, make up your own writing rules and stick to them.